I wanted to do a quick little video on how I set up my Bavarian DEMON Axon Flybarless unit on my Gaui NX7 using my T16SZ transmitter. I had a couple questions on how I set my switches up and kind of how I have it programmed and set up in the model. So I figured I'd just do a quick walkthrough. This is not intended to be an in-depth setup, it's more just about how I have my switches set up. So what we've got here is the Futaba T16SZ, the Gaui NX7, and the Bavarian DEMON Axon Flybarless unit. I have it already plugged in, I have the software downloaded, and I have the screen set up. So this here is the basic intro screen off of the Axon setup page. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and go over to our TX. So this shows how it's set up. So obviously I'm running S-Bus, but you'll see I have the channel assignments already set up. With Futaba, you run aileron on channel 1, elevator on 2, tail is 4, collective pitch is 6, throttle is 3, head gyro is set, or head gain is set on channel 7, tail is 5. Now, I don't run horizon. If you're going to run horizon, then obviously you would have horizon set to whatever channel you're running on. And then aux would be something else as far as another function you might run. The hold, so those channels start at 0, that deactivates it, and obviously hold is just where you're going to freeze it. So collective pitch, if you lost signal, then it would hold whatever last feedback it had. On the throttle side, I have that fail safe set up so that if I turn the transmitter off, my throttle literally shuts down. So if you lose signal, you're basically gonna kill power or shut the motor off. So let's look at what I've kind of done here. So if I go to the diag page, now in the diag page, I like to set up my switches so that everything talks. And then the nice thing about the Futaba system and with Axon here, I like to make sure that when I move the sticks on the transmitter, I'm getting the corresponding movement in the Flybarless, what it's seeing. So the diag page lets me see that. So we'll come back to that a couple different times and just look at it. So let's look at what we got on this setup here for the Futaba. So we talked about what our channels are: aileron, elevator, throttle. So if we go into our linkage menu and we go to servo monitor, linkage menu, servo monitor, you will see that aileron is channel 1. So aileron, channel 1. Elevator is channel 2. Throttle, you'll see throttle will open a little bit, not a lot, because once again I've already got throttle curves up, so you'll see channel 3 going up. Now if I change idle up 1, idle up 2, you'll see how that throttle jumps around a little bit. That's the way I have got my Axon set up. So channel 3 is throttle. Gyro. So, rudder, we'll see rudder, left and right rudder. So there's your rudder command, right? And then we talked about channel 5 is your tail gain. So if I flip my idle up switch, so idle normal, idle up 1, idle up 2, you'll see that change. There's my idle up. Now it just so happens that I'm running the game pretty darn close on idle up 1, idle up 2, and I've got my normal gain set quite low. And if I go, let's go with my idle up 1 just so we see the difference. If I flip into hold, there's my hold command. See how hold's dropping the throttle, but it also drops the gyro. So it lets me set up my different tail gain on different conditions. Pitch, 6 is pitch, so you see full negative positive pitch. And in channel 7, you saw earlier, I had channel 7 to my head gain. Now, I run a 3-position switch for head gain. So this is just assigned as a switch. Now, if you remember, we talked about the head gain channel on the Axon. Go back up to that. Head gain on the Axon. Head gain was set right here on channel 7. So when I told the Axon to look at channel 7 for the head gain, then we come in here and we've assigned the head gain. So let's go find that. So if we go to our function, you'll see how we've got all our channels assigned in our function menu. All right, gyro I don't assign to a switch because I'm using the condition, and that's a Futaba feature. It assigns conditions. Head gain is switch SC. SC is that 3-position switch right there. So we assigned channel 7. We called it head gain, and we actually had to select that function just so we get the right name, and it's just on channel 7. I assigned the switch SC, And in the Flybarless unit, it's looking for channel 7 to be that head gain switch. All right. So you saw another point there. So let's go back to the function real quick. So on that second page, channel 9 auxiliary 3 SF. For the purpose of this video, it has nothing to do with what we're doing in the setup. That is literally just a channel I mapped on the actual receiver to operate my switch close. So for the purpose of this, don't look at that and think it's anything other than just, it has nothing to do with the setup with the Flybarless. It's more of my setup. So let's go back. Let's look at our endpoints. So in here we've set endpoints. Now I've set the gyro endpoints between 100 and 80. You'll see that on channel 5. I do the endpoints there so that I can get my Flybarless unit and my setup to closely match. So when I go into my conditions, so if I go to my gyro page, so if I go select gyro, we see the gyro page there as the different conditions of the switches. You know, I flip the switch for idle up, I get my different conditions: normal, idle up 1, idle up 2, and I flip hold, I get hold. So as you can see, those conditions are all changing, and you see the gyro changing. So I can actually change what those numbers need to be. So if I don't like that, I can change that up and down. Okay, so I'm not going to do it obviously because that's what I want to fly at. But that way I can program in here. Now what I do, and I like to do, is when I watch my Axon, I want those numbers to be awful darn close. I don't want them to be a big variance. So I'll set my range or endpoints on the channel so that it closely resembles what the number in the radio is kind of matching what the number says in the Flybarless. So I want to see normal mode, tail gyro 75, idle up 1, tail gain of 42, idle up 3 of 38, and then when I go to hold, flip the hold switch, I get 75 again, and that kind of closely resembles the other. All right, head gain. We talked about assigning switch SC to head gain. So there's SC. Watch head gain move. So my head gains, I can go between the minus 49, 0, and then 54. Now on the Axon, the way the Axon works is, Axon does not care about the sign on that. A minus 49 is a 49, it's a value. So as far as the Axon is concerned, that minus 49 is 49. And the top condition, so that condition here, all right, you see my switch here, so 54. Now that 0, I'll talk about that in a second, and 49. So those three correspond to different color banks. So let's go up here and watch. So let's condition 1 condition, 2 conditions, 3 conditions, all right? So there's my 3 different colors, 3 different banks, right? Yellow, red, and blue. Now let's go into the Axon and look at the head gain. Head and tail. You have 3 conditions: yellow, red, and blue. Now, if you look here, you don't have a head gain value for yellow. You don't have a head gain value from blue because it's looking for the radio's output. And we talked about a second ago, you saw the 2 numbers. When I moved the switch, I had a minus 49, a plus 54 between the 2 extremes, yellow and blue. Red, it read 0. Well, let's look when we go to red. So you click on the red button. Now you have a value. So the way Axon has it set up is the red bank is hard entered right here. This is your number you entered here. When you go between yellow and blue, it's looking for a value from the transmitter, and it doesn't care what that value is from a sign standpoint, as long as it is a value. So in this case, a minus 49 is 49. So I've got my gain set at 50 for one bank, then the mid bank red is 50 again, and I've got the high bank set at 55. I'm just kind of doing some testing, moving around between the ones. So that kind of gives you an overview of how I've set up my banks, set up my gains, and how I look at the I'll move the switches. I want to watch and see those numbers move, and I want those to be reflective of what I actually see in my transmitter. What I don't want to do is have a tail gain of, say, 40, but the transmitter is actually putting out, say, 75. I want to be at least close, within a point or two, because I want to know that I'm in what area I'm at. It just makes me feel better knowing that if I think I got a tail gain at 57, at least needs to be like 48, 49, or 50. I don't want to be off by too much. Once again, the value that the Axon cares about is the value in the diag page. That's the number that is actually seen. Everything else is kind of relative as far as what the transmitter put out, because that's what the Axon sees is what it's actually using to create gain, your tail gain. Hope that was helpful. Hope that gives you a little bit of thought on how I've set mine up. If you have any questions on how you set yours up, reach out to me. I'll see if I can give you a hand. Happy flying.